twin arcs of jagged whip-crack lightning tearing apart the peaceful background hum of the Underhive Vox waves. We are the sound of malicious discontent. 665.66 UHMR Camrat Radio. Coming to you live tonight from Joe's Sump Shack.
Gobbo, it is shaping up to be another dreary fourth shift as more of this accursed ice fog settles all across the Underhive. In Hive news, the Emperor's kindred must have pushed the warmongers too far again. The six-eyed prophet was found riddled with holes, a bolter shell shoved into his jaw, crucified in the Frost Arc Hab districts. If you're gonna send a message...
You know, they're always doing the killing, but they never stick around to help clean up after. Selfish sump holes. Would have killed them to pick up a mop.
I mean, as Emmy just said, if you're going to send a message...
Also be a dick. Yeah.
This is rude.
Basking in the soothing and loving glow of blue plasma, I am your host, Goblin King, joined tonight by someone who loves to shred the peaceful fabric of melodious harmony. It's the scream queen of death synth herself, Emmy.
That's right. It's gonna be nothing but experimental synth screaming tonight at Joe's Sump Shack. Try the sump sauce.
Our very own double-barreled enforcer of the museum's back catalog. It's the Archaeo Hunter Supreme, Chac.
Hey guys, just remember, it's not what you dig up, it's how you document it when you do.
Is it science if I write it down?
Yes, it is.
And the Sultan of Suds, the Baron of all that is bright and shiny. It's our very own Drew.
I didn't prepare something for today, but I will say this: the fog, it hides the mess. So
what you don't have to look at it.
My general philosophy with cleaning is if you can't see it, it's not there.
Is that why so much stuff ends up under the studio's rug?
Absolutely. It's more of a mound now, but
studio mound. It's no longer the studio rug.
The landlord special. What can I tell you?
Yeah.
Welcome to Under the Hive of Madness, episode 124, Horus Heresy, the Dark Brotherhood, Part 1. Every once in a while, we come across chunks of lore that just hit a lot harder, and from time to time, they really need to have their entire story explored. And that's why the Dark Brotherhood is getting its very own series. This is the type of stuff that's just too cool to give you guys a half a paragraph and gloss right on over it. Plus, it does give you an idea of some of the depth that you can take Warhammer 40K when you're coming up with your own chapters. You can do some of this crazier out there stuff where, are they good? Are they bad? Before we get in to all of that, though, if you're listening to us right now, you can also watch us. And the way that you do that is you go to patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness, and you can sign up for one of our few remaining legacy tier spots at $3, $6, or $9. Don't worry. Once those are filled, there will be other spots that open up. But if you're lucky enough, you might be able to secure one at $3, $6, or $9 today. Not only will you get about an hour extra, and I think at this point, we just released our 20th Patreon exclusive video. So that is 20 extra hours of content, plus our entire back catalog of behind the scenes pre-edited content, which is probably another 100 hours or so. So there's a lot of content over there that you can just get access to right now. Watch to your heart's content. Plus, you get to see our beautiful faces. You get to hear all the mistakes we make in real time. You get to poke extra fun at us. And we got some other perks. But we'll explain a little bit more about how deep that rabbit hole goes at the end of the episode. So strap in today, guys. For it's time for some light heresy and more than a drop or two of piracy.
I just want to add something in here. While you're talking about how this could be an interesting way of constructing or a new way of doing chapters of 40K, 30K, the Horus Heresy game, just came out with rules for these guys. And if you thought things were crazy in 40K, in the new set of rules, you can play things like a clone army where you have slightly imperfect clones of Space Marines. You can do hothouse grown Space Marines where you're basically all aberrants and not quite right. You can even do mostly cyborg Marines where you have very little free will and you're mostly robots.
That's right. The whole Blackshields book is out now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Beta Garmin book, and they have rules for both Blackshields and Shattered Legions.
And don't worry,
Best.
guys, when we get to Beta Garmin, we are going to split that out into its
hell
own
yeah.
1 or 2 episode series as well. That is not a footnote combat. You know, kind of like the Battle of Calth. Like the Battle of Calth was instrumental enough that we needed to talk about all of it. Ishtvan 3 and Ishtvan 5. There's just certain things that need a little bit more judge.
Beta Garmin involves giant robots,
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
and that's the best part.
stompy robots.
And tanks. I do believe, was Beta Garmin also not just giant robots, but was it also the largest
That's
tank
Toleron.
battle ever?
That's Toleron.
Oh, it's
Toleron was the
Toleron?
largest.
I have a question for all of you guys.
Okay.
How do I get into the Dark Brotherhood? Like, do you just have to kill a bunch of people? Is that how it works? And then they show up and they and which Daedra do they worship? Is it the Night Mother still? I'm fuzzy on that.
You have to get your decoder ring, and then you have to decode the message, which is
I'm
probably
pretty sure
did you
this is
drink
like
your
in the
Ovaltine?
Dr. Horrible sing-along blog where the Evil League of Evil has to like review your application.
Oh my
all
God.
the Elder Scrolls players out there, the
the Dark
Skyrim
Brotherhood
people,
there.
they'll get it. The Dark Brotherhood is the name of the Assassins Guild in.
Oh,
The
I've
Elder
played
Scrolls.
2 video games. It's okay.
In fact,
I
when
thought
you
the Dark Brotherhood was a DC group of villains.
Oh,
when
that's
you-
a distinct possibility.
when you Google search Dark Brotherhood, the first things that you will get are Skyrim. So if you're trying to find pictures of what we're talking about, Dark Brotherhood 30K will get you to what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which,
Or Dark Brotherhood Rule 34.
that's
No.
probably
Dark
Alexa. No.
Brotherhood.
Yeah, really. Alexa, search Dark Brotherhood Rule 34.
Oh god, there has to be, right?
Technically,
sorry,
all that
listener.
stuff was like there was a big there was a big copyright strike, and all that stuff was pulled down. But there was a bunch of people that actually live in Uzbekistan that are on like this illegal server, and they've got a backup of all of it. It's like a special like web archive project. It's if you go to Lemon Party.
.co.uk.
You're trying to get them again. This is 2 episodes in a row.
Okay. I did
did
make a joke, but please, please, please do not search Dark Brotherhood Rule 34.
I'm
Or
sure
Lemon Party.
like half of our listeners are in their kitchen like cooking dinner right now, and their Alexas just went, okay, searching. We didn't say Siri and Alexa, so anyway.
darklemonparty.org.
To kick this off, we're gonna talk a little bit. We're gonna lay down a summary of what the Dark Brotherhood is. Almost from its onset, the Horus Heresy was a vast, tangled, fragile, and confusing conflict, with events moving at such a breakneck pace that mystery, supposition, lies, and ignorance became the great tools or even just happy accidents when it came to obfuscating much of the bloodshed, even as it was directly occurring, casting a veil over much that would never be lifted. Accounts of small warbands that were once part of the known traitor legions fighting independently were widespread throughout the war. In many cases, these outcast forces proudly bore their original colors and even regarded themselves as the true inheritors of their Space Marine legions. We've talked about a couple of these groups so far. Iron Warriors being a standout, some Alpha Legion guys that were a standout, and on the opposite side of the coin, of course, the White Scars and a couple of others. Perhaps an even more sinister enigma, however, is the widespread and varied reports of Space Marine forces appearing that bore no sign or seal or heraldry of any kind. Or stranger yet, the heraldry which couldn't be tracked back to any active force that was operating during the Great Crusade. Forces that would eventually fall under the loosely termed and non-formal class of warriors known as Blackshields, Legion Astartes, and those Blackshield allies that followed them. So Blackshields are generally the name that's applied to the Legiones Astartes. However, it can be blanketed to the Astra Militarum groups that fight with them, as Nugget adds to our notes.
God, I'm so sorry.
No, it's great.
Nugget,
it's pretty good.
Get off. No.
Do I need to read that?
Nugget.
23 Queen.
You cannot be writing fan fiction right now. Thank you. That's pretty good stuff. I think it's. I like Hudafadikagada. I thought that was really insightful.
I'm pretty sure that's a Space Marine's name. It's a Space Marine sergeant's name.
He's in the Crimson Fists.
Yeah. Okay.
We've touched on it a lot, but we're going to come back to the Ruin Storm again here. And the Heresy would see an uncountable number of Shadow Wars, many of which would be only be pieced together much later from scattered archival fragments or first-hand accounts. One of these conflicts, fought in the galactic southwest near the warp phenomenon known as the Maelstrom, was isolated from the front lines and outside of the chain of command for either side. As word of the outbreak of the Horus Heresy reached the individual planetary rulers, most recoiled in horror at War Master Horus's actions and base betrayal of the Emperor. However, few would declare openly against him, for they dreaded the gaze of Horus, for they dreaded the gaze of Horus and knew what they could provoke if they did so. He would just essentially crush them as if they were so many insects. A minority of lonely voices would denounce such indecisions as craven and dishonorable, imploring the imperial commanders of the region to stand together in a common defiance of the traitors. But as such kind of happens, when there's only a couple of those voices and everybody wants the problem to go away, those people vanished or their voices were forever silenced. And it's against this backdrop of dread and recrimination that the worlds of the region began to suffer a range of creeping horrors. None knowing of the great and terrible ritual that Logar and Erebus had enacted on Calth, or that the sacrificial murder of the Viridian Star during the last moments of the battle had brought about the Ruin Storm, a warp storm of such scale and ferocity that it would split the Imperium. And if you guys are wondering, it's very, very similar to the Cicatrix Maledictum, except kind of picture all of the systems being kind of split from each other rather than there being this very heavy dividing line. But a lot of this stuff that's happening now in current lore kind of harkens back to, the Age of Strife and then obviously the Horus Heresy, kind of piggybacking on each other.
Interestingly,
Erebus guy's such a dick.
Fuck Erebus. I was doing some reading about, for no reason related to what we're talking about today, I was reading about the Halo Stars again. And there is a similar formation in the Halo Stars called the Halo Scar, which is a thing that basically essentially cuts off parts of the Halo Stars from the rest of the galaxy as well.
Well, so the weird thing about the Halo Stars, and I only know this because we did an episode on the Ghoul Stars and we talked a little bit about the Halo Stars last Halloween, in fact. But the Halo Stars are technically all of the stars on the very periphery of the entire galaxy.
Yeah, that's why they're the Halo.
Right. Yeah. So the Halo Stars are not like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the Halo Stars, that area and the Ghoul Stars. No, they are Halo Stars in the Ghoul Stars, but there are also Halos. Yeah. But the Halo Scar is a specific region, which is really cool. It's kind of like the Ghoul Stars is another specific Halo Star region.
Yeah. Technically the Halo Stars are the oldest stars.
Yes.
They were formed first and thrown furthest from the galaxy.
Out. Yeah.
And that's where the big bad hangs out.
Really gives a new meaning to the song Halo by Beyonce. Like, if you think about it from that lens.
Not the song Halo by Soilwork.
No, definitely the Beyonce one.
Got it. Understood. I'm here for it.
As the oncoming darkness of the Ruin Storm consumed the Pale Stars, cutting them off from the light of Terra, terror and insanity erupted across the region's worlds. At the same time, the loyalties of the worlds of the Pale Stars remained an unknown to Terra, lost as many were to the background noise of the galaxy-wide civil conflict. Were it not for the arrival of Nathaniel Garro, one of the Imperium's unsung heroes, the fate of the Pale Stars might have never been known for its place in the story of the Horus Heresy. Alongside the Agnetia Primus of the Knights Errant came the force of nature and regent of Terra, Malkador the Sigillite. But before we get to their arrival, we have to explore the bloodshed and madness which fell over the region like a curtain of warped and decaying flesh.
I try to write one of those every time for you, Emmy.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
How do I make them creepy before she sees them again? So Nathaniel Garrow is the Argenta Primus of the Knights Errant. That seemed more clear in written word than spoken. That's totally a me thing. I took those notes and tried to make them into a cool sentence, and I think I failed. So I just wanted to clarify that. And the reason that he's the Argenta Primus, as we know, because we covered the Knights Errant and the Grey Knights, that's Nathaniel's job, is essentially to start collecting these Grey Knights together to do a thing, or these Knight Errants together to do a thing. With the Ruin Storm obscuring huge sections of the galaxy, the War Council of Terra sought to gauge the true scope of the unfolding calamity by any means. Blinded as it was, the Council was desperate for other ways to measure the disposition of War Master Horus's hosts and the allegiances to other planetary rulers. Who's backing this guy? We need to know. Astropathic communication had become all but impossible, as the warp churned into a howling cacophony that either drowned out these messages or corrupted their content into insidious ways, leaving the only means of assessing the status and allegiances of these scattered worlds of the Imperium to envoys and agents acting in person. Hazardous missions that would be paid in blood and death by countless loyal and devoted servants of Terra. Even as Terra readied to dispatch their flotillas to these beleaguered star systems, other forces were converging upon the Pale Stars. One was an allegiance of Legionis Astartes who had, each of their own and very different reasons, renounced or severed their ties to their sire legion and obscured their heraldry. Another served as an equally shadowy cause, albeit one that we most associate with the traitors, that being the Alpha Legion. So this is not a good place to be. You've got these guys who are called Blackshield, not a good term, and then the Alpha Legion, both coming over for dinner. What table setting do you put out?
Oh God. Can you imagine? Like, okay, this is a weird one, but like an ex of mine's father used to work for the organization Blackwater,
He was a
and
contractor,
he was a
yeah.
contractor for Blackwater. And he said that on a like top secret nighttime flight into Afghanistan, they served everyone. They just got like an urn with some hot water, and they just kind of took some tongs and gave everyone a single hot dog out of this hot water urn. So like, if I was doing something for like these guys, I'm thinking just single bunless hot dog, no condiments, They're all about the
Yikes.
sustenance, and the edibility and the mouthfeel is like absolutely last for them.
Are you
Oh.
are you saying that Space Marines just care about sausage?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, not about taste. They just want to suck down that glizzy.
If it's nice and wet, you can eat more of it. Anyway,
Exactly. Like that
that's for
guy
the
who wins
lemonade.
the Nathan's hot dog contest every year.
Yeah,
That's what
you
he
have the
does. Is he
lemonade.
dunks it in water and then
Do the dip.
Yep.
yeah.
You can
Ooh,
just see the Dark Brotherhood parading around the state fair now and eating hot dog. Anyway, sorry, Drew. Go ahead.
the whole like Black Shield thing is an interesting thing because it is like it's like most things, it's a term borrowed from history. Like we also have the Gray Shields later on as well. They're representative. They're meant to be like a placeholder for troops that don't necessarily have a traditional
defined alliance,
or not even
allegiance.
defined alliance, but they're like defined platoon or whatever, right? Like
Right.
or legion. So like in, for example, the Royal Canadian Legion, there are a bunch of there's like Highland units and stuff like that, and they all have long traditions. But every once in a while, they just recruit a bunch of people to go fight, and they would be in Scotland. That would be Blackwatch, right? If you're Blackwatch, you're not part of a particular clan. You're just a person who fights.
Yep.
And I mean, it's more complicated than that. I'm oversimplifying it, but it's the
Exactly.
same kind of idea.
My wife's grandfather was in the Black Watch.
Yeah.
It's just a Highland. It's just a regiment now.
Yeah, it is a Highland regiment, but anyone can be like. So if you join, you could join a Highland regiment that has many years of tradition and stuff like that. But typically, things like Black Watches and stuff don't. The whole notion of that is that they are sort of like they're the platform agnostic. They're the Ultramarines. They're the most. I mean, the Ultramarines aren't even Gray Shields or Black Shields, but like the idea is they're the most watered down, basic, like, we don't have a lot of specific traditions or rules or names for these people yet, because we just had to hire so many of them so quickly. They inevitably will fall into one of those things eventually if they don't leave the service because they're not needed anymore or whatever.
It's a relatively common repeating theme in literature too, obviously. Glenn Cook famously wrote a series of books called The Black Company, which is literally about a giant fantasy, it's a fantasy world, but it's a giant mercenary company that operates. It's the reason that Blackwater was called Blackwater. And Blackshields, it can be very deceptive because the common trope, I guess, is to view Blackshields as being traitors, as being good guys gone traitor, and that's not true.
No.
Blackshields happened on both sides during the Heresy. It was literally like, for instance, if you were a bunch of Iron Warriors and you absolutely were pissed off at Perturabo, you would paint your armor black, obscure all your heraldry, and then you would go fight alongside Dorn. And then you were Black Shield Imperial Fists. It happened all the time.
So what the actual explanation that comes from GW, especially with the new game coming out with Horus Heresy, is that, part of it is, traitors that just said, screw Horus, we still have allegiance to the Emperor, but we can't go, but like Dorn was famous for shooting first and asking questions later. So if he saw a bunch of Space Marines in Iron Warriors armor, he'd just take them out. Or, Emperor's Children or any of that. So they would say, well, we can't go walking around in our colors because we'll get blitzed. Other ones would go like, they were Death Guard, but they go back to become, they were Terran members, so they went back and changed their colors back to Dusk Raiders, but they'd still be considered Black Shields. Some came up with their own heraldry. There's a famous one like the Flame Falcons or something like that.
There's a couple of
they used to be Emperor's Children. They're white and purple, and then the Inquisition stepped in and said, okay, well, we're going to hide that they used to be, like Emperor's Children, and they still went on. But then there was also like groups that were basically, you had these isolated groups and they'd go around the battlefield scavenging gene seed and just basically quick growing more Space Marines. And so you had all sorts of like chimeric gene seed. You had purposefully trying to make super Space Marines by taking gene seed from a bunch of legions and cramming it together. This all happened during the Heresy.
Fabius Bile did none of that.
This all sounds like
it wasn't Fabius Bile. This is all these
sounds like
little
some Fabius Bile shit, though.
He did it too,
these little companies out there that they're like, if you read the Beta Garmin book, they're like, well,
shit got
most
desperate.
of the time it didn't work.
Yeah,
but sometimes you did get these like super Astartes.
It's just sort of like, again, it's sort of like the chaos of war, right? And what comes from it. And I think it also kind of shows you just how much the Space Marines are dependent on the infrastructure of the Imperium to sort of like stay like both like socially cohesive, so like otherwise they start getting desperate, right? Because they need stuff
turn into
like
orcs.
Yeah, they need the tithes both in like potential troops and gene seed and all that kind of stuff. Like this system exists for a reason, and they start to fall apart when they don't have it.
Yeah.
So when they get pirates, cut off from,
Raiders, which is essentially where we're at. We're talking about pirates right now. They may not be pirates for long, but we're talking about them right now. Which arrived in the Pale Stars first is a detail now long lost to history, and none can tell if their appearances were linked or if it was simply coincidental. However, it was most likely that the tides of an unquieted warp simply stranded both there at the same time. The first group of Black Shields would come to be known by the name the Dark Brotherhood, though none can tell if the group itself ever acknowledged or even used this name. This is what they were known as. This was not a name they had picked for themselves. Very little is known for certain about the Dark Brotherhood, and even less about the circumstances of its formation. What is clear is that the band of Black Shields had formed around a warrior known as Demon Reaver, or simply the Nemean, a title which likely referred either to the impenetrable artificer-wrought armor he wore in battle or to suggest that he was preternaturally strong and impossible to slay. Did I pronounce
like
that
the
wrong? Is that way it's?
The
Nemean.
Nemean, like the Nemean lion.
Right,
Yes.
right.
It's
Nemean.
a Babylonian
Well,
thing.
right, but it's not spelled the way that as the Bronze Age guy, it's not spelled that way. Okay, Nemean is what they mean. Why did they literally do Nemean?
Nemean.
Yeah, I see it.
Nemean.
I see it. Okay. The origins of this war leader remain unknown, though accounts claim he was a Terran scion of the 1st Legion Dark Angels and a veteran of the 3rd Ragdan Xenocides. He was marred by terrible scars from the Ragdan Xenocides, his face a twisted mass of scar tissue hidden beneath a ragged hood. Armored in Catherian warplate, a suit of void-hardened and reputedly impenetrable artificer armor believed to include elements of a suit of power armor that predated the Imperium by several millennia. So he's wearing pre-unification war shit, pre-emperor shit. He also wore an iron halo. For weaponry, he wielded a Calibanite flame brand, a two-handed flame-edged sword forged by a hidden order of bladesmiths, and he paired that with a master-crafted bolt pistol, as well as carrying lots of grenades. I'm not really sure why lots of grenades is important, but it's apparently important, so we're saying it here. The Nemean was a taciturn and brooding warrior and leader who bound the desperate elements of the Dark Brotherhood into a coherent force, moving quickly to establish a haven and sovereign domain deep in the void beyond the spiral arms, where he and his brethren might forge their own destiny and a galaxy fallen to insanity. But this was essentially, fuck you guys, we're going to make our own empire with hookers and
blood. Yeah. So is this homeboy a Thunder Warrior, or is he pre-Thunder Warrior?
He has pre-Thunder Warrior armor elements worked into it. So that the first, here are the reasons, and I know that Chac's going to have an opinion on it, but here are the reasons I'm pretty sure rumors are he's a Dark Angel, and he is a Dark Angel.
Oh, right. Yeah, you did mention this.
The first one is the Calibanite flame brand.
Right.
This is a very, very specific, pretty much only people from Caliban have one. And the second is his armor was older than even Thunder Warrior armor. It was essentially archaeotech that was taken from a barbarian or a techno-barbarian.
Yeah.
So I think the implication here is, I think the argument here is that he's definitely First Legion, because First Legion was the Legion that was created before any Primarchs were. The Dark Angels existed before the Primarchs did.
Yep.
And then the second being the Flame brand. Now, Chac, you immediately said allegedly.
I just said that because everything that I could find when I looked it up said allegedly.
Yeah,
so
it all
I
says
think
allegedly.
They've got it sort of lost in the mist of time. But yeah, if he's Terran born and he's wearing archaeotech, he's First Legion.
He's probably wearing the armor that Space Marine armor was based off of, would be my guess.
Do you remember what the First Legion's first job was, though? It's killing all the Thunder Warriors.
Yes. Yeah, shooting him in the back of the head.
Yeah,
on Mount Ararat.
Like, good job. We're unified, and we're killing you.
Yeah. Right. So, you had the Mark I armor was this semi, it didn't cover everything. It wasn't void locked. It wasn't all powered. I think it had powered legs and all. That the Thunder Warriors
the Thunder Warriors armor did not have powered legs. They only had powered upper bodies. That was one of the reasons it was so loud.
Okay. I knew it was only one or the other. But that was based on something earlier. The Emperor didn't come. Basically, it was scavenged. You see a lot of the warlords, if you read what little there is of the Unification Wars, they had stuff that was like left over from the before times, right? And was very powerful.
Golden Age of technology stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When you think about it, they were doing the Men of Iron and the Men of Stones. They probably had some pretty good power armor too, And so, he probably was a Dark Angel. I'll go with that.
So people are aware, and they may or maybe not, but there's the history of Earth, which is between now and when the Emperor sort of like appears in the fiction in 40k, even though there's some stuff that he before, but when the Emperor starts being the Emperor, essentially, that gap is like humanity develops like to a point where there is a literal golden age. Like there's no hunger, there's no disease, technology is incredibly advanced, there's all these advanced AIs, and then there is some cataclysm and we don't necessarily know what it is, and
The
then
Men of Iron.
Yeah, it's the War of the Men. I mean, they were like terraforming. They were hollowing out worlds, putting suns inside them. They were
like they're doing incredible things, and so there was this great cataclysm that led to essentially like on Earth, especially there was like this atomic winter that basically destroyed virtually most life on the surface of the planet, and the few people that were left that could find and use the technology were like gods, right? So like the stuff that this guy is using is pretty out there stuff. It is still beyond even what the humans of 40k what they're capable of doing with their technology, right?
So there was a very brief time during the period after. So we covered the Unification Wars before we got into the Horus Heresy. So kind of go back and listen to that. But so what we know, and we know very little about the Men of Iron, is the Men of Iron became a galaxy-wide problem to the point where every race came together to fight it.
We were fighting with Eldar against the Men of Iron.
Yeah. And in my opinion, that is the seed that birthed the Cabal. Would be my guess.
And that forced everybody to get into a room
together.
Right. Yeah.
And then when the unification and then the Age of Strife happened. And the Age of Strife happened because Slaanesh was being born. And basically everything in the galaxy was cut off from itself. So Slaanesh was born in M30, y'all. Slaanesh was not born aeons and aeons and aeons ago. Slaanesh is a very, very young dark power. And then after the warp storms of the Age of Strife broke is when the Emperor revealed himself and did the Unification Wars, which is what we're kind of talking about. Mm-hmm. And there's a very, very brief blip in history from about M30 to about this time of M31. Mm-hmm. And we're only 8-9 years into M31 right now, where humanity started to develop new technology again and innovation happened. And then it all went away because of the heresy and then the scouring. And then there was a very brief chunk of it again in M32. But kind of what Drew's driving at is that this is, Drew and Chac are driving at, is that this is shit that was like in somebody's lost bunker from like M15, from the Star Trek era. If you wanted to plot it out, after our modern time, you have the Star Trek era, and then Star Trek goes off the rails because if you were to follow Star Trek out far enough, it probably would. And then it kind of devolves. And then, 5,000 years later, you get 40K.
This is probably what I can see this right now. So
it literally does happen in the Star Trek canon.
Yeah, the board.
Hang with me. So starting like around M15 or whatever, you had the Star Trek utopian era where the entire galaxy is being colonized, and we're sort of like friends with the aliens and all that.
We haven't met the really bad aliens yet.
Yeah.
Riker's then fucking the aliens.
The Men of Iron, the Men of Stone, and we get a war. And during that war, at the tail end of that, is we have Star Wars, where it's sort of post-apocalyptic. And then it goes past. Then it gets
goes into
and then it goes into Mad Max.
There's a Futurama episode where this whole thing plays out, where they like fast forward through time, and there's a lot more castles than I would have anticipated.
But essentially, Warhammer 40,000 is the postmodern post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
So the reason there's a lot more castles than you would anticipate, Emmy, is because, as several archaeologists have pointed out, much smarter archaeologists than me have pointed out on the YouTubes and other places, there's really only like 5 different ways to super efficiently stack stone.
Yes.
Okay,
and I've pointed that out myself. That's why pyramids occur all over the world. Yeah. Because that's how you stack stone.
As it turns out, it's just
got it right, man.
It's just a good idea.
Yeah.
Those guys knew how to build a freaking pyramid.
It was in the trinary star system known as the Iridian cataract that the Dark Brotherhood would find refuge. A dense shroud of asteroids circled the system's 3 stellar bodies, concealing secrets and hazards that only the most accomplished of Void Masters could hope to navigate. The Dark Brotherhood were possessed of such individuals. Their small fleet of light but fast vessels crewed by a motley assortment of Voidborn, captained by Legions Astartes, who had seen service in some of the most arduous campaigns of the Great Crusade. Having established a secure base of operations deep within these asteroids, they laid claim to the entire stellar realm and the boundless natural resources that orbited its 3 stars. Within solar months, the Dark Brotherhood was aggressively defending its interests, ranging the surrounding warp routes to clear them of any foe that might contest their mastery, from human and Xenos void pirates to patrol vessels sent out by the small Imperialis Armada squadron stationed at Fargos Rex.
I'm going to call bullshit on this one, because if anybody's seen the 3-body problem, you know that this system would not be a pleasant place to be.
Well, and that's why they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
I was actually going to
hiding.
say, like if you're familiar with we just brought up Star Wars. If you're familiar with the what is it? The odds of surviving flying through a asteroid belt, not a Star Wars belt, an asteroid belt are blah 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 to 1. That's completely bullshit. Most asteroids are so far away from each other you can't actually visually see from one to the other.
Yeah.
Right.
So a star system like this is so tremendous that like you can
Tremendous? Is that a word you
Tremendous.
just
Tremendous.
I just, I meant tumultuous, but I said tremendous. Okay, so just accept the new words made up by Ryan.
Patrons, if you want tremendous merch, let me know. Drew and I can work on some graphics. I'm thinking
Oh my god,
like a muscle tank, tote bag, and like, I don't know,
booty shorts.
a
Booty shorts.
thong.
You need, like, instead of juicy on your butt, it needs to say
Says
tremendous.
tremendous. Okay,
Tremendous.
perfect.
I think the word is perfectly beesulent, so I don't know what you guys...
I love. Yeah, there we go.
But you have to have some serious cake to fit tremendous on the butt of your sweatpants.
That's
You gotta have at least
I'll
two
work
You
on
gotta
it.
have some tremuntionacity in the old
You gotta have the tremussy.
Oh my god.
Okay.
God.
Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
So,
I like it when we break
that was
Ryan.
some good
But
shit.
back to the point is-
killing Ryan.
3-body problem. Trinary.
Very dangerous star system.
Because you cannot predict what the orbital patterns are going to be. They're very, very erratic. We cannot write, for example, a mathematical equation that will determine what will happen in those. Unlike even a binary star system, or even or a conventional single star orbital system like we have here. You know where Earth is going to be in 2,000 years. Right.
Yeah.
But if there are 3 stars, you will not. You will not be able to predict what the position of those bodies will be. And that makes it a nightmare to navigate.
We're actually kind of finding out in modern astronomy that our galaxy, that the single star system is kind of rare. Binary pairs are relatively I don't know, that we're not as common as we thought we once were. It's probably a better way. I shouldn't say rare. We're not as common as we thought we are. There are a lot of binary and there are trinary systems that we've observed too. But like Drew's saying, you can observe a trinary system in the moment, but predicting what it'll do even a couple of years later is not. But that's where that.
So like being a farmer in a trinary system would not be a good time, because you would not know what your seasons were going to be and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And then occasionally you just wiped out by solar radiation every couple of 90 years or so.
But if you're space marines and you really, really want to mine those heavy mineral asteroids of an early star system, especially an early star system,
you want to be in a place that's not necessarily easy for other people to fuck around in. I imagine that warfare in the system would have been very difficult.
Impossible.
And they've already established that it's also full of an extraordinary amount of stellar debris, right? So
it's a great place to run a pirate empire from, assuming you can survive or shield yourself against the radiation.
Yeah, so it's got like a bit of the like Pirates Cove kind of vibe, right? Like 100%. This is a really difficult reef to traverse, but when you have the knowledge, you can exploit that to kind of like a clownfish,
Like a clownfish, exactly.
Yeah, and that's what these clowns are doing.
These class. Okay, there's a lionfish problem, but we don't have time. We'll get into it later.
That's a whole new can of lionfish.
That's like a
but yeah,
whole
we can get
episode.
into that.
In late 007.M31, the Dark Brotherhood launched a sudden and overwhelming assault upon the nearby system of 771/51-6, a brutal purge of the human Xenos hybrid pirate clans that had preyed upon the region's outlying worlds since the time of Old Night. The Nemean executing their master by his own hands as an undisputable message to any of the abominable strain which of any of the abominable
Like the
strain which survived. I know. I was just like, abominable is not the right word.
Not quite.
The name of the Dark Brotherhood's brooding Reaver Lord was soon known across a dozen or more systems, and the whispers of his formative stellar pocket empire spread even further. Soon after this conflict came word of the arrival of an Alpha Legion strike force commanded by Strike Master Ijax, a bloody-handed veteran of the drop site massacre of Ishtvan V. Just so you're aware, that means he's not one of the possibly good guy Alpha Legions. He was at Ishtvan V. He did some shit. Strike Master Ijax had come to the Pale Stars as an emissary of the traitor cause, his mission to ensure that the region's planetary rulers declared for War Master Horus. Instead of presenting himself directly at Fargos Rex, Ijax divided his command and dispatched lieutenants as envoys across the entire region, each going before a planetary lord to deliver the War Master's missive in person.
This is what we call fuck around and find out.
We're in the find out phase right now.
Yeah. Because let me tell you, if I was, let's say, I don't know, an enterprising warlord that wanted to take advantage of the whole Horusy situation and carve out my own little fiefdom, I would not want Horus sending one of the most skilled veterans from the Ishtvan V drop site massacre from the Alpha Legion.
Yeah,
that does not sound like a good time. I would be watching my back
in next door
constantly.
Yeah.
This is not good.
Each recipient of these envoys was informed that their peers were being made the very same offer at the exact same moment. These rulers were compelled to reach their own decisions without recourse from their fellows. The Alpha Legion standing before them, feeding their darkest fears about what the War Master's fleet might have in mind for their worlds, while simultaneously appealing to their most venial desires with the insinuation of all the favors they might earn upon declaring for the War Master's cause. The presence of the Dark Brotherhood would, however, forestall immediate acquiescence. Upon learning of the Nemean and his pocket empire, Strike Master Ijax saw at once the necessity of neutralizing this rival faction and an opportunity to seal the compact with the planetary rulers. We'll deal with these guys who are pirates on your doorstep and are probably already impacting trade, because as we mentioned, the Dark Brotherhood is raiding warp travel lanes. They're literally pirating. They are in the trade routes, taking shit when they need it. We'll get rid of these guys who are fucking up your trade, and then you're part of us. Like, come on, guys, let's 1-2 punch it. If the governors would commit their own forces to his command in a joint endeavor of ridding the Pale Stars of the Dark Brotherhood, then the War Master would surely bless each ruling house with his unconstrained lagresse. The rulers saw no choice but to comply. It's totally one of those hey guys, if you do this, Horus is going to be so fucking happy with you. Let me tell you how fucking happy with you he's going to be. Don't worry about the fact that I have a gun pressed in the small of your spine. What I'm saying is that Horus will be really happy. No. My commander doesn't have a gun pointed to your kid's head. He'll be really happy. You just ignore what we're doing to your wife with 2 guns. Telling you, he'll be really happy. And then the ruler's like, well, if you put it that way, how can I help? It's,
So they found out. They
found out.
Yeah, well, this is cool because this is how the Alpha Legion fights. It is not just about it's not about strategic acts of violence, because there's that too, but it is about surgical strikes, both against the enemy, but against their mind, against their very way of thinking about things, and putting them in these impossible situations.
Yeah, you're gonna have to choose between the worst of 2 outcomes. Yeah, sorry, Or you're going to have to decide what is the least of two bad outcomes. That's how I should have said that.
And either way, the Alpha Legion's going to win. They're
Yeah.
going to engineer the situation such that it's going to be beneficial for them.
Oh,
Right.
always.
Yeah.
It's the Alpha Legion.
Yeah. Another Shadow War begins. The compact sealed, Strike Master Ijax commanders assumed command of the planetary musters of a dozen worlds and their system defense flotillas. While most of these forces were crudely equipped and barely trained, the Alpha Legion reforged them into effective armies, utilizing each muster's unique knowledge of its homeworld and the particular skills honed there. Having established a core of defensive armies on the key worlds, Ijax ordered his host to press outwards into the Pale Stars. Thousands of warriors transported in the holds of in an ad hoc armada of cargo vessels with Alpha Legion escort ships. The strike team master's intent was to challenge the freedom of movement the Dark Brotherhood enjoyed since coming to the region, and in so doing, to precipitate an escalation in the conflict, dictated by his own strategic ends. The Dark Brotherhood were far from idle as the Alpha Legion raised the planetary muster, and when the traitor-aligned fleets pressed into the void, they immediately were opposed by the Nemean's vessels. Across the warp routes of the Pale Stars, the black-hulled warships of the Dark Brotherhood fell upon their foes, exacting a fearsome toll upon those who would oppose their master of warp routes. So, I mean, we are in their backyard, though. They know exactly. There's a reason why they're here, and they knew how to exploit the region perfectly, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's only going to get much less find out from here. Wait, much more find out from here? One of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're just going to continue to find out, but I think we're going to be less surprised. It's more like, okay, this is probably exactly what would have happened when we did this.
I mean,
it just sucks.
Yeah, if this ends with the Nemean like eating his like best friend and smiling the whole time, I will not be surprised. You know, like
Well, we already teased who's on their way. So anyway.
Yeah.
The traitor-aligned ships teamed with militia troops, their holds crowded way beyond capacity, and so the Blackshields boarding actions were met either with such a press of bodies that they were repulsed as often as they were just completely successful. So it's one of two things. You either get on and all of those guys throw you off, or you get on and there's so many people that they're like, thank fuck, we're done. Or better yet, you get on, seal that room, pump it in empty it of oxygen, and you just kill 120,000 troops. It's a zero check sum battle, and the Dark Brotherhood's really good at leaving when it doesn't go their way. The Dark Brotherhood turned dozens of militia transports into carnal houses, driven by twin gouts of dissuading future attacks while capturing what vessels might find employment in their own growing ragged fleet. Fighting was most intense where Dark Brotherhood and Alpha Legion warriors came face to face. On several occasions, upon the burning bridge of some stricken vessel racked by shuddering death throes. No quarter was given and none was sought in such bitter confrontations, and countless legionaries from both factions went to their deaths rather than concede defeat. The Dark Brotherhood and Alpha Legion warships clashed across a dozen systems, the conflict spilling onto the surface of numerous worlds as the traitor-aligned militias were deployed wherever their masters willed it. The mortal hosts were mostly treated as less than cattle by the Strike Master Ijax and his officers, their presence often serving as provocation to incite an attack from the Nemean. So he's using like, hey, look what I just put here. Come check it out. He's waving his ass in his nose, essentially.
Yeah. I just, this is, I don't know what these guys are thinking. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are. Like, they're always going to be outnumbered. They're always going to be out technologied. Like it is just the clock is ticking for these fools. I guess there wasn't a lot of precedence to go from that. I suppose the Nemean has lived long enough to think that he's finally found the winning formula. But I don't know. I feel like that's probably gonna catch up with them pretty soon.
The Black Shield Lord was no fool and matched the Alpha Legion's cunning with his own, so that 1,000-strong militia armies were often deployed to isolated regions at great effort and no effect. Here's kind of a little hint towards that. These forces instead fell prey to hazardous local conditions or simply starved to death while the Dark Brotherhood committed their efforts elsewhere. So they would rise to the bait, land on the planet, make sure that they were nice and committed, and then fucking leave. And then the Alpha Legion wouldn't pull their guys off it because they either couldn't or didn't care to. As an example, at Larsa 5, transport brokes out of Fargus Rex deposited 30 cohorts of planetary muster into Radium Dune Seas, which dug in and established a chain of fortified strongpoints. The Dark Brotherhood declined to take the bait, however, and within a solar month, the entire army of occupation had perished from exposure to the highly irradiated environment. At Mirdath, 3 Dark Brotherhood vessels succeeded in bypassing the quasi-sentient outer system defense monitors protecting the Dark Mechanicum Forge Fane that had long orbited in the system's outer reaches. Striking directly for the Fane's macro provider chambers, a Dark Brotherhood boarding force captured and escaped with hundreds of tons of highly valuable supplies. And that's the other way that their Dark Brotherhood's that they're still being pirates the entire time. Although
Yo.
they encountered a mechanical horror of whipping mechadendrites that slaughtered half their number before they could break clear. This creature was product of the Miradath Forge Fane's inner foundry, the Holy of Holies, where unspeakable machine blasphemies had long lain dormant. It's kind of interesting because this sort of suggests that the Dark Mechanicum has been active as the Dark Mechanicum for longer than the 4 years that we think of it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
had shit they didn't want to show off.
Oh, they were doing stuff pre-heresy for
They
sure.
were beeping and booping for
Yeah,
a real
they're
long
guaranteed
time.
there were like these dark sort of like sub factions of the Mechanicum that were
Forge
going on for a
Wolves.
long time, right? I'm sure that there's a Void Dragon cult in there too, and a few other things.
I'm sure there's more than one.
Yeah. I think, it's easy to think about all these factions as a monolith, especially something like the Mechanicus, because we're used to just thinking of them as they're all the weird cyborgs with red robes. They're the same dudes, but they aren't. They fundamentally aren't. They suffer just as much sort of like divergence and factionalism as any of the other large factions.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you will note that the Alpha Legion, one of my favorite chapters, is also doing exactly what they need to, which is they are not expending manpower on all of this, right?
No, they're throwing PDF at it essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not even Solar Auxilia, literally PDF.
Yeah. So they're simultaneously depleting the existing warlords of resources, and also the Nemeans and all of his troops, all the Blackshields. They're depleting their resources. They're losing, as they say, they're losing, even with all these like daring maneuvers, they're losing tons and tons of just soldiers. And the whole time, the Alpha Legion, all they've done is shown up and basically had a few meetings.
Yeah.
Well, no, they have
human resources.
there have been battles of the Blackshields against the Alpha Legion on different ships and all. Just covered that.
Pretty at this point, like the death toll on both legion, like if you were to look at them as both legions, which is not, if you were to look at the Dark Brotherhood as a legion, the death toll on both legions side is really small. This is pretty much all of the people who fight for either side are getting murdered, but the guys themselves are kind of staying out of it, except for this action where they go in and try to steal all this shit, which,
not a great idea.
Sometimes the plan goes hot too fast.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at the outlying system of dissolution, the Alpha Legion envoy ordered the recall of an occupying army that had engaged in a decades-long campaign to eradicate a primitive yet highly pernicious native Xeno strain. As the garrison forces mustered in orbit, the long-suppressed Xenos rose up against the remaining human colonial holdings, achieving in a single local day what the garrison had fought for solar decades to hold at bay, and tens of thousands of settlers were sacrificed to the primitive aliens' chthonic fire gods. It's fucking metal.
Oops.
Even as the militia watched its world burn from orbit, the Dark Brotherhood struck, and a fierce battle erupted across the dissolution near space. Thousands of traitor-aligned militia died as their transports were cast burning to the surface below, but the Nemean's forces suffered their losses, as the Alpha Legion had used the garrison force as bait to draw the Blackshields into a counter-ambush. Though the war that erupted across the Pale Stars was divided between those aligned to the War Master and their enemies, the Dark Brotherhood fought not for Terra, but for their own cause. That cause was simple survival, the Blackshields having determined that in a galaxy fallen to darkness, survival lay in the seizing of their own destiny. The Nemean was bitterly opposed to the traitors' campaign to force the local commanders to declare for the War Master, for them doing so was detrimental to his own ambitions of a safe haven for his own.
Yeah, and that's important to note. This guy is not fighting for the Emperor. This guy's fighting for his own shit.
That's
so
right.
the Xenos race is specifically intentionally left unnamed here.
Yeah, both of them.
Because
It's the Jokero.
It's the war would have been over by now. The Jokero would have packed up and left, and there would have been nothing
fucking
left.
Dark orangutans, guys.
Oh.
It's canon.
You don't want that to happen. The Jokero are some of the most powerful creatures in the galaxy.
I know.
But they're also lighthearted and funny and fun. No, so the hybrid Xenos that they mentioned early. So there was like some like Xenos, like
there was a human Xenos
hybrids.
Yeah.
Half Eldar.
Yeah, it's kind of there's a couple of suggestions here, but like half Chthonian is like
what's the Yu-Gi-Oh card that just popped up?
Probably card. Something based on HP Lovecraft I mean, Chthonian is essentially Cthulhu.
Oh yeah, Cthulhu.
No, Chthonian just means underground.
Oh really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
It has become a root.
It's tentacle monster.
That live underground is what it's
underground
become.
tentacle mouthed monsters.
But it really comes from the Greek, and it simply means basically underground.
Got you.
And you don't pronounce the C, by the way.
To popcorn bucket. So I guess it's very. Oh, that makes sense because Chthonian being Horus's world, most of them live underground.
In Greek.
Chthonian. Okay.
Yeah. Chthonian refers to beings that inhabit the underworld.
Yeah. So essentially, like whatever this alien species or whatever this Xenos species was, they were like Dune Fremen-ish, I would guess.
It's like calling something troglodyte.
But
it lives underground.
Getting back to, so oftentimes they like to, like, in fun ways, like poke fun at like older versions of the game and stuff. But we know that half Eldar was a thing initially.
It used to be a thing.
Because it was more like a direct adaptation of like some of the D&D tropes. So I just like saying like, oh, the squats got eaten. I think like this would be another sort of fun way for them to say like, oh yeah, all the half Eldar were killed off by the Nemean and in the war, and then the Chthonians came along and burned everybody, and it's just horrible.
Yeah. No one's there anymore. Etch a sketch end of the Pale Stars.
Yeah.
The peoples of the Pale Stars knew horror at the war the traitors had brought to their worlds, but any who looked to the Nemean for deliverance would find only disappointment, for the Dark Brotherhood was unheeding to their suffering. As war overtook the Pale Stars, there soon followed yet another calamity. The turbulence that had afflicted the warp for so many solar months now flared into a raging tempest, fueled by the shedding of so much blood among the Pale Stars, which in turn only served to feed the ruin storm. The planetary musters raised at the command of Strike Master Ijax had borne the brunt of the suffering, with the losses sustained by the Alpha Legion and the Blackshields being insubstantial in comparison. As the death tolls mounted into the many thousands, the warp grew ever more turbulent, immaterial tendrils groping in the darkness towards spilled blood like unseen predators circling a drowned man. Imperial scholars would later conclude that this phenomenon had been brought about with deliberate intent. Drew, to kind of speak to that Alpha Legion thing there. However, others doubted that Strike Master Ijax was fully aware of the fell wisdom possessed by Erebus and his peers. So it's one of those like happy accident. People are like, he either did it on purpose or it's a happy accident tree. There's no in between.
I think it was engineered, but
As ever greater amounts of blood were shed, disillusion, Fargus Rex, Miradath, and Larsa were subsumed in a seething warp rift. With this warp storm's rage came waves of insurrection and insanity of increasing intensity, much worse than any seen before. The Neverborn, things of the abyss and nightmare made flesh, now walked and fulfilled their lusts among humanity, tearing themselves from the shadows to fall upon the peoples of a dozen worlds, whose streets would run with torrents of blood. Worse still, great swaths of the population of Fargus Rex reportedly joined the unnamed creatures, turning upon their fellows, rendered by warp-touched madness into little more than atavistic cannibals and savage murderers.
Yeah. And so, mission accomplished.
Yep, right?
The Alpha Legion went in to just completely disrupt everything, depleted everyone, all the resources, and then we just turned on the warp taps, and now the place is a fucking mess.
And now it's blood letters as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Just chomping and biting.
Chomping, bite.
Witness the wonders and horrors they bring. It was into this region of blood-stained space that rogue trader militant Lorne Orpheus finally arrived. His flotilla had traversed the homunculus warp routes from Terra, through the outer reaches of the Segmentum Solar and across the depths of the Orion Crux Void. When they at last translated into real space at Fargos Rex, they bore scant resemblance to that which had departed Terra only scant solar months earlier. Fewer than half the flotilla survived the passage through the Kamaran Drift, where they had encountered the leading edge of the ruin storm as it surged across the galaxy. The surviving vessels were visibly wounded, their hulls scorched black by immaterial fires and their armored flanks rent and buckled as if they had been caught in the grasping talons of some god-demon of ancient myth. Limping in system, it became immediately apparent from the flood of electromagnetic and astrotelepathic signals that the pale stars were in the grip of some terrible woe. Although the numerous names and images repeated throughout the torrent of Vox and psychic communications was that of the Nemean, as if the peoples of the pale stars sought his protection and protection from him in equal measure.
It's just it's that confusion that you're talking about, Drew. It's definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
And at this tipping point, is the arrival of a Terran envoy a good thing?
And soon you'll be able to play an army of a rogue trader militant flotilla.
Which I think is very cool. But
Yes.
also, I kind of feel at this point that they're more fuel for the fire than salvation.
The envoy of the Council of Terra knew that not only had the ancient tales of horrors of old night been true, but those very horrors had returned. Funeral pyres the size of cities burned across the darkness of Fargus Rex's night side, while a pale of dense smoke obscured the terrors being inflicted upon the surface on its day side. Orpheus, however, had come too far and risked too much to turn tail and retreat back to Terra. If indeed a return voyage was even possible given the ever-rising intensity of the warp storms and the beleaguered state of his flotilla, the envoy resolved to travel to the surface and to determine if anything remained of the planetary government or the Terran administration mission that had been based there before. But Orpheus was well aware of the risks he was taking, and so he prepared a message packet for Terra to be carried through the warp storms upon the fastest vessel remaining to his flotilla.
People haven't really seen demons, right? Like, especially like the presence of like warp demons has not been that commonplace up until now. So like, literally, as you say, like when this guy arrives, he's just like, oh shit, hell is real, and here it is. You know, it must have been pretty gobsmacking for these people.
And it's here, with Lord Orpheus's message being hurried back to the Council of Terra, that we will bring a close to episode 1 of the Dark Brotherhood. We're leaving you guys on a cliffhanger if we can, and we can, so we're doing it.
Yeah.
So suck it up.
If you want to get into contact with us about this episode or the show itself, you can do that by reaching out via email at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Discord and join the conversation about existing lore, world building, gaming, and much more. You can also find the show on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Check out our website at underthehiveofmadness.com. Check out our link tree to find all sorts of links to keep up with everyone in the cast's hobby progress and internet meanderings.
I help the podcast grow like a mass of Zinchian tentacles by liking and reviewing us wherever you get your podcast fix. Our home is Spotify, but you can find us on Audible, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, and more. As always, links and spellings can be found in our show notes. Support us through Patreon at www.patreon.com/Under the Hive of Madness. Join a fantastic crew of Hivers like Cetrus Kid, Tim P., and Monkey.
Monkai.
Monkai.
Monkey
It's
Man.
Monkai.
It's Monkai Man. It's not Monkey Man. It's Monkai.
I know.
No, this is how it's pronounced on my Exodite world. It's because I'm from a slightly disconnect. Look, when you guys rebelled from the Eldar, we stay a little bit closer. We drink tea, you drink coffee. Anyway, so as I was saying, when I was saying this horrible racial slur, Monkey, man, for extra content and a chance to snag some cool merch in our monthly giveaway. By the way, Monkey Man is a movie from Dev Patel that is now streaming, and you should go watch it. It's very good.
Yes.
That's why I said it.
Joe's Sump Shack, home for the all-you-can-eat sump crustacean and fungi cheddar jalapeno biscuit platter. Just 6 creds after 4th shift. And don't worry, we didn't forget the kids. 6 orc fingers, fries, slaw, and a cup of sub sauce is just 3 credits. Wash it all down with a bucket of Snotgrot Arrogant Ale pints. On special all month long. We are the rabble-rousing rebels your parents always warned you about. The last beacon of truth on the Pirate Voxwave, 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio. Reminding all of you Chemrats, Hive Mice, and Sump Ghoulies to keep those dials fixed right here. Same ratty frequency for a dose of the same ratty-ass attitude.
In the shadows deep where the light won't go, 4-armed emperors creep and terror grows. Keep your children close and your doors locked tight. For those who wander far are lost to the night.
And snap to the poetry and read a motherfucking book.
More nudity on Friday, though.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Waist
Wear
down.
less.
Waist down.
Live News
Donald
Girls
Duckett.
this Friday.